Good evening and welcome to Scotland at 7. My name is Saoirse Healey. Apologies for a slight delay in today's programming. We just had a few technical issues. We've no guest tonight, so it will just be me running you through our top stories of the day. As always, we'll start with our Ukraine update. It's day 609. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has vowed to maintain military pressure on Russia-occupied Crimea. We have not yet gained full fire control over Crimea and surrounding waters, but we will. Ukrainian officials have said that Russian forces are continuing to pound the eastern Ukrainian city of Avdiivka. They said that heavy losses forced Russia to switch to air attacks instead of ground advances. Kharkiv's regional governor, Oleh Syniehub, has said that 2 civilians have been killed in an artillery strike on a village near Kupiansk. Russian forces have been attacking further north in the area of Kupiansk, a town initially seized by Russia after the invasion but recaptured by Ukraine last year. Russia has claimed successful artillery and airstrikes near Bakhmut, a town in the northeast captured by Russian forces in May after months of battle. Australia says it's sending a 3D metal printer and anti-drone systems to Ukraine as part of a $12.8 million military assistance package. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is quoted as saying Australia remains steadfast in supporting Ukraine to defend itself against Russia's illegal and immoral invasion. It takes the country's total aid to about $582 million since Russia invaded. Moldova blocked access to more than 20 Russian media websites on Tuesday, saying they had been used as part of an information war against the country. A decree published online by Moldova's intelligence and security service listed 22 Russian news sources to be blocked, including prominent ones such as Russia Today, NTV, REN TV, State Media Holding VGTRK, and others. President Biden's request for aid to Ukraine remains in limbo as U.S. House Republicans continue to struggle to elect a speaker. Ukraine has set up a joint arms defense venture with German manufacturer Rheinmetall AG to service and repair Western weapons sent to Kyiv against Russia's full-scale invasion, officials have said. Ukrainian Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal has Germany is to provide it with an additional 1.4 billion euros to enhance its air defences and help it get through a second winter at war with Russia. The European Commission has said that the EU is on track towards its goal of ending its reliance on Russian fossil fuels within this decade. 2 people have died and others were injured in Russian shelling of Kherson. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov met Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi in Tehran earlier to firm up bilateral relations in a trusting atmosphere, the Russian Foreign Ministry announced early on Tuesday. Moving conflicts, Israel has called on the UN Secretary General Guterres to resign after he said the, quote, appalling attacks by Hamas against Israel on the 7th of October cannot justify the collective punishment of the Palestinian people, and spoke of the clear violations of international humanitarian law that we were witnessing in Gaza. The UN Secretary General went on to say the attack on Israel did not happen in a vacuum and followed 56 years of suffocating occupation for the Palestinian people by Israel. Israel has said that it has refused a visa to the UN Humanitarian Affairs Chief Martin Griffiths as a result of the comments made by Antonio Guterres. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Gildan Erdan, said that Israel will refuse to issue visas to UN representatives due to Guterres' remarks. Gildan Erdan said the time has come to teach them a lesson. Erdogan said Guterres should resign, calling the speech shocking. The Palestinian Authority's Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki, a rival of Hamas, denounced inaction by the UN Security Council. He said, the ongoing massacres by deliberately and systematically and savagely perpetrated by Israel, the occupying power against the Palestinian civilian population under illegal occupation, must stop. It is our collective human duty to stop them. The UN Agency for Relief of Palestinian Refugees, the UNRWA, last night warned it would be forced to halt its operations in Gaza due to the lack of fuel as of Wednesday night. The UNRWA also said that its shelters are now 4 times over the capacity, with more than 600,000 internally displaced people sheltering in 150 facilities. The Palestinian Red Crescent said 8 aid trucks were allowed to enter Gaza late on Tuesday. The UK Ministry of Defence has said that a plane delivering humanitarian aid to Palestinian civilians is en route to Egypt. The President of the European Council, Charles Michel, has written to prime ministers and presidents across the EU ahead of the summit tomorrow afternoon to express grave concern at the growing situation in Gaza. The Gaza Health Ministry said 6,546 Palestinians have now been killed in the Gaza Strip by Israeli airstrikes since the 7th of October, including 2,704 children. This figure includes 756 people, 344 of whom were children, killed in the last 24 hours. It said 17,439 had been wounded in total. UNICEF's regional director for the Middle East and North Africa has said that the rate of death and injuries of children in Gaza is simply staggering. Recep Tayyip Erdogan has told a group of MPs from his Justice and Development Party, the AKP, that Hamas is not a terrorist organization, Israel's actions in Gaza are savage, and he cancelled a planned trip to Israel. Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani of Qatar said he hopes there might be some movement on the release of hostages soon. He condemned what he termed the collective punishment policy inflicted by Israel on Gaza, saying that the only way to keep a peaceful solution in Gaza is to keep communication channels open. 3 people were killed in the West Bank after the Israeli military launched a drone attack on what it said was a group of armed Palestinians who fired and hurled explosive devices. French President Emmanuel Macron will meet Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in Cairo today. Pope Francis has renewed his calls for the release of hostages held by Hamas and for humanitarian aid to be allowed into the Gaza Strip. Moving back locally, Sir Keir Starmer has been accused of having gravely misrepresented a meeting with Muslim leaders in Wales amid anger among some of Labour's remarks over the Israel-Hamas conflict. The Labour leader visited the South Wales Islamic Centre in Cardiff on Sunday. In a statement on Tuesday evening, the centre apologised for the hurt and confusion caused by hosting Starmer, and said the intention was to highlight the suffering of the people in Palestine. It was also expressed dismay over Starmer's social media post about the visit, which read, "I was grateful to hear from some of the Muslim community of South Wales. I repeated our calls for all hostages to be released, more humanitarian aid to enter Gaza, for water and power to be switched back on, and a renewed focus on a 2-state solution." In response, the South Wales Islamic Centre said, "We wish to stress Keir Starmer's social media post and images gravely misrepresented our congregants and the nature of the visit. We affirm unequivocally the need for a free Palestine. We implore all those with political authority to uphold international law and to end the occupation of Palestine." The statement added, "There was a robust and frank conversation which reflected the sentiments of the Muslim community. Members of the community directly challenged Keir on statements made on the Israeli government's right to cut food, electricity and water to Gaza, warranting war crimes, as well as his failure to call for an immediate ceasefire. This comes after the Labour leader was forced to clarify remarks he'd made about Gaza's decision to limit supplies to Gaza. In Scotland, 15 Labour officers resigned over party rules about responding to the conflict in Gaza. 9 officers in Glasgow ward, including a Labour peer, and 6 in Edinburgh stood down. Staying with Labour Labour has U-turned on its pledge to create a Scottish-style right to roam in the English countryside if elected, according to The Guardian. Instead of an assumed right of access, the party now says it will find other ways to create more access to land in England after oppositions from some landowners' groups. Campaigners reacted with dismay at the news. There has been a recent groundswell of public campaigns involving mass trespasses, which have sometimes attracted thousands of people asking for a general right to walk across the English countryside. There is currently a right to roam over just 8% of England. Wales, like England, is under the Countryside and Rights of Way Act, meaning there is a right to walk on open country, such as mountain, moor, heath and downland, and registered common land. There is no right to wander over the countryside in Northern Ireland. The previous shadow environment team, led by Jim McMahon, the MP for Oldham West, and Royton, had committed to a Scottish-style right to roam, where there would be an assumed right for English people to walk around the countryside. The former Shadow Nature Minister Alex Sobel, the MP for Leeds North West, told Parliament earlier this year Labour's approach, like in Scotland, will be that Labour's right to roam will offer access to high-quality green and blue space in the rest of Britain. We replace the default of exclusion with the default of access. Campaigners have criticised the change in direction. Guy Shrubsole from the Right to Roam campaign said, piecemeal extension of the Crow Act won't lead to equitable access for people who need it most. It's also an expensive and time-consuming approach. It took 5 years and millions of pounds to map access land when Crow was brought in, and resulted in right to roam over just 8% of England, much of which is very remote from where most people live, and it managed to create lots of access islands that you can only reach by trespassing. Scotland's default right to access land and water responsibly, with sensible exceptions and backed by well-promoted outdoor access code, offers a much better, cheaper and more workable model that England should be following. A new report from the UN University, the UNU in Germany, has set out a series of risk tipping points that are approaching, but said having foresight of these meant it remained possible to take action to prevent them. Tipping points are triggered by small increases in their driving force, but rapidly lead to large impacts. The UN researchers have warned that humanity is moving dangerously close to irreversible tipping points that would drastically damage our ability to cope with disasters, including the withdrawal of home insurance from flood-hit areas and the drying up of groundwater that is vital for ensuring food supplies. These risk tipping points also include the loss of mountain glaciers that are essential for water supplies in many parts of the world, and accumulating space debris knocking out satellites that provide early warnings of extreme weather. The risk tipping points are different from the climate tipping points the world is on the brink of, including the collapse of the Amazon rainforest and the shutdown of key Atlantic Ocean current. The climate tipping points are large-scale changes driven by human-caused global heating, while the risk tipping points are more directly connected to people's lives via complex social and ecological systems. The report examines 6 examples of risk tipping points, including the point when building insurance becomes unavailable or unaffordable. This leaves people without an economic safety net when a disaster strikes, compounding their difficulties, particularly for the poor and vulnerable. Another risk tipping point examined in the report is when groundwater aquifers are overexploited to the point where wells run dry. Aquifers currently prevent half of the losses of food production caused by droughts, which are expected to become more frequent due to global heating, the report has said. More than half of the world's major aquifers are already being depleted faster than they can naturally be refilled, the report said. If they suddenly dry up, the entire food production systems are at risk of failure. The groundwater risk tipping point has already passed in some countries such as Saudi Arabia and is close in India. Saudi Arabia was a major wheat exporter in the 1990s, but now imports the cereal after the groundwater wells were exhausted. The other risk tipping points covered by the report were the point when water supplies from melting mountain glaciers start to decline, when Earth's orbit becomes so full of debris that one collision with a satellite sets off a chain reaction, when heat waves pass the point when natural sweating can cool the human body, and when losses of interdependent wildlife species snowball into a collapse of an ecosystem. Two Metropolitan Police officers who claimed to smell cannabis as they stopped and searched the athletes Bianca Williams and her partner Ricardo dos Santos lied and were guilty of gross misconduct, a police disciplinary panel has found. PC Jonathan Clapham and PC Sam Franks were found by the panel to have lied about smelling cannabis whilst searching Dos Santos. 3 other officers were acquitted of gross misconduct over the same incident. Clapham and Franks were both dismissed without notice and will be placed on a list barring them from serving in the police. Williams and Dos Santos were stopped while driving in Maida Vale, London, on the 4th of July 2020 as they returned from training with their baby in the car. The officer claims the car had driven through a red light. It turned out it had not, and both athletes were handcuffed during the stop. Dos Santos filmed part of the detention of him and his partner. The panel found the claim that race of the athletes had played a role in their treatment was unproven. Panel chair Chu Yin Jones said they accepted that Dos Santos, who was regularly drug tested, did not possess drugs. She said, given the breach of standards of honesty and integrity within an operational context arising as it did during the course of an encounter with members of the public in which coercive powers were used, the panel found that the conduct of PC Clapham and PC Franks amounted to gross misconduct as the breach was so serious as to justify dismissal. Jones said Clapham and Franks had been untruthful in their account that they smelled cannabis, and they suspected the person responsible was Dos Santos. Jones said it led to the officers being trapped in a lie and that there was no objective basis for believing Dos Santos had cannabis in his car. Moving over to America, Donald Trump was in court again today as Michael Cohen returned to the witness stand in Trump's New York State civil fraud trial brought by New York Attorney General Letitia James in a lawsuit against the ex-president, which claims that Trump unlawfully inflated values on his properties on financial statements when it suited him. Cohen, who pled guilty to a long list of federal crimes related to his former boss in 2018, repeatedly implicated Trump in financial wrongdoings in his testimony on Tuesday. Cohen testified that Trump wanted him and Weisselberger to figure out a way for him to have the net worth he wanted. During meetings when Cohen and Weisselberger discussed Trump's financials, he would make demands about what they should be. Cohen said that Trump would look at the total assets and he would say, I'm actually not worth $4.5 billion. I'm really worth more like 6. The New York Attorney General's office intends to prove that Trump and his inner circle conspired in defrauding lenders and insurers with inflated property valuations. Cohen's testimony puts Trump at the center of making decisions that enabled alleged wrongdoing. Before Cohen returned to the witness stand today, Judge Engoron, who has fined Trump $5,000 for violating a gag order that barred Trump from commenting about him or his staff, said he was just alerted to comments that appeared to violate that order again. It was brought to my attention that the Associated Press reported Mr. Donald J. Trump just stated the following to the press gaggle outside the courtroom. The judge is a very partisan judge with a person who is very partisan sitting along him. Perhaps he's even more partisan than he is. It's really easy for the public or anyone to know who that person is, Engoron said, referring to the law clerk whom Trump previously disparaged. Trump's lawyer, Chris Kissy, insisted his whole commentary related to Mr. Cohen and his credibility as a witness. We are certainly aware of the order. Engoron didn't appear to accept the explanation, saying that the word alongside strongly suggested Trump was referring to his clerk. When proceedings resumed today, Trump's attorney Alina Habba continued her cross-examination. Habba tried to cast Michael Cohen as a liar. She tried to catch Cohen in a trap, admitting to perjury. Habba repeatedly asked Cohen whether he committed perjury during his guilty plea in federal court. Cohen's testimony is at the heart of prosecutors' cases against Trump. The second annual report on the National Mission on Drugs has highlighted a wide range of initiatives and projects aimed at reducing deaths and improving the lives of people impacted by drugs. It sets out the progress made from April 2022 to March 2023 against the National Mission Plan. Some highlights from the report include a total of £141 million investment in drugs and alcohol services and programs, successful rounds of funding to ensure multi-year support for services of all sizes across Scotland, £14 million for 3 new residential rehabilitation facilities, the opening of the first National Family Drugs Treatment Service, and a new mother and child recovery house in Dundee. A rapid review into improving care for people with co-occurring substance and mental health conditions. The report also notes significant progress on rolling out medication-assisted treatment standards, increasing uptake in residential rehabilitation placements, and the availability of life-saving naloxone. Official statistics for 2022 also saw the largest year-on-year decrease in drug-related deaths since the lowest average in 2017. Visiting Creative Change Collective in Paisley to hear about its work with those recovering from addiction, drugs and alcohol policy, Minister Elena Whittam said, "Since becoming a minister, I have visited a number of treatment and recovery services and seen the transformational change the National Mission has already delivered. I believe the tireless work of people across Scotland will have contributed to the reduction in drug-related deaths, and my thank goes to all of those working to provide potentially life-saving and life-changing support. Through our £250 million national mission, we are doing everything within our powers to tackle drug deaths. It has helped support more than 300 grassroots projects across the length and breadth of the country, and we have also expanded and improved access to residential rehabilitation. There has also been substantial progress in rolling out medication-assisted treatment standards. However, the number of deaths is still too high, and we know that there is a huge amount of work that has to be done. As we near the halfway mark in our 5-year mission, our aim now is to continue to shape and hone support to ensure it's reaching those who need it most." Following the period covered by this report, we have continued to make progress supporting moves to establish the UK's first official safer drug consumption facility and drug checking facilities. Police Scotland has also completed its nationwide rollout of naloxone, using the kit more than 300 times. Local food and drinks projects are being encouraged to apply for funding from Scottish Government's Regional Food Fund. The latest round of funding is up to £100,000, which is now available for businesses and groups who wish to promote regional food products and establish new markets. The fund is designed to support the development of regional food and drink products in Scotland. It has supported a range of projects including the Shetland Seafood Provenance Scheme, the Butte Kitchen Retail Project and the Clyde Island Gin Passport. Rural Affairs, Land Reform and Islands Secretary Mary Gurgan said the Regional Food Fund is an excellent opportunity for local businesses, producers and community groups to showcase the best products that they have to offer. It has already provided over £650,000 to more than 140 projects across the country, and I'd encourage anyone who'd be interested to apply. The fund is part of our wider Good Food Nation plans. These ambitious proposals will seek to improve the availability of local, high-quality food whilst ensuring our food industry continues to grow in a way that is profitable and sustainable. The deadline for applications is the 24th of November, 2023 at 5 p.m. Young people transitioning from the care system into adulthood are to receive a one-off care leaver payment of £2,000 to support them into more independent living under proposals being considered. The First Minister announced the proposed payment will be co-designed with care experienced people to ensure it meets the needs and helps reduce some of the financial challenges they will face. This follows findings from the Independent Care Review, which highlighted links between those with care experience and the increased risk of poor mental health, addiction, homelessness and exploitation. First Minister Humza Yousaf said, "The Scottish Government is committed to keeping the promise by 2030 to all of our children and young people. This includes making sure that all young people are given the opportunity they need to transition from care into adulthood and more independent living. For any young person at any age, moving away from home can be challenging when we rely heavily on family support networks. Many care experienced young people won't have that luxury that many of us take for granted. Care experienced people are over 1.5 times more likely to experience financial difficulties and have more than double the chance of experiencing homelessness, mainly before the age of 30. We also know that money management is a top concern for young people moving on from care. It's important we provide the right support at the right time for our care experienced young people, and the care leaver payment will provide much needed financial support at such an important moment in their lives." Staying with the Scottish Government, the Wellbeing Economy Secretary Neil Gray will highlight Scotland's expertise in renewable energy and commitment to development international partnerships to deliver technology such as green hydrogen in a meeting with UAE ministers ahead of COP28's annual climate change conference. Neil Gray will demonstrate that Scotland has the skills and drive to help deliver global net zero solutions as the Scottish Government, in partnership with Scottish Enterprises Overseas Arm, Scottish Development International and the Scottish Chamber of Commerce, support a business delegation of 19 companies to showcase their net zero expertise during COP28, which launches on the 30th of November. Mr. Gray said, "We have the resources, skills and ambition to advance green energy technologies and accelerate decarbonisation. COP28 will allow us to reaffirm our commitment to reaching net zero and to highlight our innovative companies that can help in that delivery. This will showcase Scotland as an exciting partner for global businesses to achieve their net zero aspirations." Scotland was the first country to declare a climate emergency in 2019, and we continue to take key steps to build resilience to the wider impacts of climate change. No one country can deliver net zero on its own. International cooperation will be vital. The UAE was the first Gulf nation to commit to reaching net zero by 2050 and is an important market for Scotland. I look forward to discussing opportunities to strengthen collaboration in a number of areas, including energy transition and our mutual net zero goals. Continuing to build trade and investment will play a vital role in helping Scotland build a greener, fairer, well-being economy and all the benefits that it will bring to families, communities and businesses across the country. So that's everything from us tonight. Before you go, I just want to remind you, here at Broadcasting Scotland, we depend on the generosity of you, our viewers, and our supporters. So to everyone who signed up to make regular monthly payments, thank you so much. Our programs will, of course, always be free to view, but if you can afford it, please consider becoming a Broadcasting Scotland supporter. Our need to reach our £30,000 target is still pressing. However, due to the generosity of our supporters, it's given us a little bit more time. We've now raised £19,700 and we are able to continue making programs for the next few weeks. But our need to raise the remaining amount is still really urgent. I've been Saoirse Healey. Good night and thank you for watching.
Hello and welcome to Broadcasting Scotland. My name is Lewis McGlynn.
Hello and welcome to Broadcasting Scotland. My name is Saoirse Healey.
Hello and welcome to Broadcasting Scotland. My name is Donald C. Stewart. Broadcasting Scotland is Scotland's independent broadcaster, providing factual news, reporting on the issues important to the people of Scotland.
We are committed to public service broadcasting, and with your support, we will produce even more programmes.
Provide opportunities for young people interested in media production and broadcasting, and challenge preconceptions of what Scottish media looks like, amplifying Scotland's voice and reflecting its communities.
We can already deliver high-quality live news, and we will create the highest quality programmes for you to enjoy, but we can only do that with your support.
So please subscribe to and share our channel or donate to Broadcasting Scotland via the link in the description. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.